Well, joining us now on the program, we want to learn more about Gallagher and talk about some of their virtual fencing products, learn about eShepherd and more, get a kind of a broad overview of some of the work that they are doing at Gallagher and how they can help your ranching operation. Joining us for a conversation here today, Charles Liebergreen with Gallagher. And Charles, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Hope you're doing well.
I am, Jesse. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, just for starters, give us a little bit of background and history on Gallagher. I know you have you are from New Zealand and have some unique experience and background just that you've brought to Gallagher overall. And I know a lot of expansion here to the United States. So just give us a little bit of background and overview for starters.
Sure. I'm a Kiwi. I'm from a little town called Dunedin, which is in the South Island of New Zealand. Throughout my career, I've worked in agriculture for a long time, sometimes in genetics and often in technology-based organisations. That sort of marries quite well with Gallagher. Gallagher Animal Management has been around for 86 years. They're very well known for, fencing solutions and the containment of animals, as well as a range of other things. But I guess I'm more involved in the virtual fencing element of Gallagher's business, which is relatively new. And we've recently brought that to America and Canada, having sort of begun its development way back in 2015. So it's good to finally be here.
Well, let's talk about some of the this virtual fencing eShepherd that you guys have brought to the U.S. and Canada. And obviously, I just think about finding these virtual fencing solutions, trying to make things easier on the farm and ranch and work with our herds, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, talk about just the ease of use of eShepherd, and let's start there.
That's right. And I think that's some of the great feedback that we are getting about a relatively new technology is that it is easy to use. We often talk about the need to train animals, but actually sometimes the training of the ranchers and the farmers is just as challenging, mainly because of they need to appreciate that they're going to be managing their animals in a very different way. But fundamentally, it's about drawing shapes on your computer screen. That could be a square paddock, but it could be a polygon, which has many sides. You save that as a virtual paddock, and then you send that out to what we call a neck band, which is sitting under the chin of your cow. And the neck band then uses that shape or square to geolocate itself using GPS information from satellites. And so it's the neck band which is determining, where am I? Am I near a boundary? Am I well within the boundary? Do I need to let the cow know that we're too close, or are we far enough away? And that's how we sort of manage animals in a very modern way without the need for physical fencing.
I would say what comes to my mind is I think about folks who have, some of these virtual barriers around their yard for their pets, so to speak. It seems kind of equivalent to that, just on a larger scale for our cattle, right, Charles?
Absolutely. It is very, very similar. Some of those technologies for dogs require a wire to be laid into the ground. That's not the case with eShepherd, where we're using GPS information from satellites to geolocate that neck band, and we can have very, very large pastures of hundreds of acres in size, right down to less than 1 acre, with an appropriate number of animals, of course, but it is very versatile.
Well, and I think about obviously physical fencing, and at times, we can have problems. Our cattle can, break through some fencing in cases, et cetera, et cetera. So, working with virtual fencing and honestly using technology here, I think is a very innovative thing that Gallagher is doing to help ranchers, Charles.
That's right. And this technology was actually born in Australia, as I said, way back in 2015. And when it started to come, into fruition, Gallagher looked at that and went, gosh, it's very interesting. As an animal management company, we should be taking a closer look. So they did ultimately purchase that startup company, and now I think are really trying to understand how it should be used. Gallagher has some great ideas about what virtual fencing is, but actually we get a lot of innovation from our customers. So I think we continue to learn. Our customers are constantly challenging us about ways that they want to use virtual fencing and features that they want included. That doesn't matter whether they have very few animals or hundreds of animals. We're all together learning because fundamentally it is a new way of managing animals.
Well, and I wonder about this too. I'm sure, you have some ranchers who hear this and they might be a little skeptical, but you guys have plenty of success stories available already of folks who've been adopters of eShepherd here in the US and Canada. I mean, and talk about some of those success stories for us, Charles.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the range of customers is fascinating. We have some customers who are very interested in elements of regenerative agriculture. And fundamentally, what they want to do is rotationally graze. Now, doing that traditionally with lots of labor and having to move portable fences or temporary wires regularly is challenging. You need to be out there multiple times a day, or you need your workers to be out there multiple times a day. Virtual fencing is completely flexible, and this might sound a bit silly, but you can literally do it from your kitchen table. So you can, change the design of a virtual paddock. You can move animals in terms of a strip grazing scenario, throughout the day. So from that intensive point of view, it has a lot of value proposition. And then we also hear stories from people and farmers who are suffering from wildfires. So while they may have had fencing infrastructure in the past, some of it might be old or literally destroyed because of fires. So now they're faced with having to rebuild a lot of that infrastructure, and eShepherd virtual fencing means you don't have to, because you can have, as I mentioned, very small paddocks, but you can also have very large. So I think that's one thing that is great, is the versatility of eShepherd.
Charles, from a technological standpoint, what about some of the devices, say, for the cattle? Talk about what is there in terms of eShepherd. How long do things last, et cetera, et cetera? Can you give us some tech details there?
Sure. Well, eShepherd, we call it a neck band. I'm aware that others call it a collar, but we call it a neck band. It's a disc or a puck that hangs underneath the animal's chin, with chains extending up the side of the animal's neck, and then a rubberized top strap, which is over the back of the animal's neck. And it weighs about 5.5 pounds. And it's a long life product. The battery in eShepherd will last for 7 years, so there's absolutely no need to be changing batteries. And the device itself will also last for many, many years. We'd love to say 7 years, but at the moment we haven't been around for 7 years, so we can't quite make that claim. But it is proving to be very robust. We have it in a number of situations globally.
Charles, if folks want to learn more about eShepherd, I'm sure going online probably the best way to get started. But I mean, talk about how folks can get involved and look at using eShepherd on their operation.
Sure. I guess it does come down to their value proposition, or what I call their value proposition. We've talked about containment. That's obviously very important. We've talked about strip grazing. But it might also just be from a time point of view. Farmers and ranchers are very short on time. They might have a second or third job that they need to manage. And so, that might be their value proposition. But certainly that's a question that we ask up front. Why are they looking at an alternative to labour effectively? We then work through that scenario with them, trying to understand the lay of the land, literally. We also want to know things like, are they within range of cellular coverage, the topography of their land, and therefore what type of installation might we consider with them. Once we work through that, and and they commit, which is fantastic. And we have a number of customers in the United States who have done that already. Then we take them through an onboarding process, which helps them understand what they need to do in terms of using the software, but also training their animals, which is an important step. Animals actually train very, very well. It takes about sort of 4 to 7 days before they are well adapted to what virtual fencing is. But after that time, and assuming that the ranchers and farmers are designing appropriate virtual paddocks, they can then move into that, operational phase of using virtual fencing. So I think that from initial inquiry to being up and running by yourself, it probably only takes about 4 weeks.
Fantastic. And I'm sure if folks want to get started, am.gallagher.com is a great place to start, isn't it, Charles?
Absolutely. Within that, they can find some links to eShepherd, and we can have a conversation.
Fantastic. Anything final you want to add that we've missed, or anything you want to reiterate to folks here today about eShepherd or the work you guys are doing at Gallagher?
No, I think that eShepherd is obviously a new technology, but it's arrived at the right time. I think ranchers are under pressure from a number of areas, and so moving towards a technology to solve some of those problems is a great way to carry on ranching. And the versatility of eShepherd is answering a lot of those questions.
Really cool technology. Learn more about eShepherd from Gallagher online, am.gallagher.com. Charles Liebergreen with Gallagher, thank you for joining us here on the program and telling us more about eShepherd. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.